Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa was forced to leave COSATU's May Day rally after angry Sibanye Stillwater employees disrupted proceedings and refused to allow him to speak. He engaged with the workers before being whisked away by security when more people stormed the stage. Workers are demanding a 1,000 rand increase, but the employer is only willing to offer 850. Joining us now is Sibanye Stillwater spokesperson James Wellsted. Mr. Wellsted, thank you very much for your time this morning. Now, this protracted strike around the workers' demand of 1,000 rand is honestly dominating headlines currently, where even the fact that the CEO took home 300 million rand last year is being brought up yet again. Just give us context. At what figure did the negotiations start, and where are you standing now after that 850?
I can't tell you where they started because it's obviously been about a 10-month process. It's been an extended engagement. But certainly at the end of last year, before the December break, we actually paid back pay on the current offer that we had on the table at that time to employees so that they would go home with at least something and have something for the December break to share with their families. And at that point, it was 450 rand. We've subsequently moved our offer a number of times. On the 4th of February, we offered 700 rand in basic increase and 100 rand live-out allowance. And then we recently, on the 19th of April, again adjusted that to an 800 rand basic increase and a 50 rand live-out allowance. And that contrasts with the union's 1,000 demand on basic and then 100 rand live-out allowance. And that's quite a bit higher than where we are. Our current offer for entry-level employees sits at about 7.8% increase in year one, 7.5% in year two, and 7.2% in year three, which is above inflation that we're currently experiencing at the moment. So we've tried to take that into account in our offer. The union demand, however, is sitting at about double digits. It's around 10%, and that's really just not affordable. It equates to an extra billion rand on our wage bill, and it's effectively about 44,000 rand per kilogram of gold we produce more on costs. And that's effectively our operating margin. So it would drive our gold business into a loss-making position.
So their argument now that they've brought up that Neil Froneman got 300 million, last year alone, could that then not be something that really leaves them aggrieved to say, if you could give 300 million to the CEO as one man, perhaps there is some money somewhere to actually arrive at that double digit?
So, again, it's about perspective. Mr. Froneman's salary last year was 14.3 million rand. He had a 5% increase in his salary year on year. The additional, the bulk of the additional, remuneration that made up the 300 million is, in essence, appreciation on his shares that he was awarded in 2018. And the share price when those shares was awarded was 11.44 rand, and vested at 72, which is about a 560% increase in value. So our company's grown from a 13 billion rand company in 2018 to about 180 billion rand at the moment. And that's created a lot of value for stakeholders, including management who do have share incentives in place. We have tried to offer similar profit share arrangements to the unions numerous times over the last series of wage negotiations that we've entered into, but they've always rejected it out of hand. And that's been short-sighted because our employees would have also benefited from the high commodity prices we've been experiencing if there had been a profit share in place.
Now, the growth is quite impressive. From 13 billion, you're now at 180 billion. Now comes the argument by some workers as well that Harmony Gold seems to afford the 1,000 rand increase. So they're significantly quite smaller. So what do you make of such?
Listen, it's like everything. Different strategies, different pressures that need to be taken into account when making these decisions. For us, we're looking at the sustainability of these operations and the impact that giving above inflation increases will have on other stakeholders. I'm talking about communities, small and medium enterprises, local municipalities, etc., who rely on our operations and are dependent on our operations. And if we give these kind of above inflation demands, it's going to result in a shorter operating life of our mines. It's going to mean that we're going to have more unemployment, and it's going to impact on those stakeholders. So we don't make these decisions lightly. For Harmony, their decision-making process was probably a little bit different. Harmony is very much exposed to South Africa and South African gold mining. For us, our gold mining operations are only 6% of EBITDA. For Harmony, a strike of this nature would have been catastrophic. For us, it's more important to consider the sustainability and longer-term impacts of a strike or above inflation versus above inflation increases, and that's how we approach it.
Now, that consideration of sustainability in the long run seems to be costly now. I mean, this protest started, or strike started in March. We're now in May. Where to from here? And I mean, given the scenes from yesterday, you now have the first citizen of the country seeking to intervene. He committed on television that he's going to get them that 1,000 rand. What is that conversation? How is that conversation going to unfold with you? Will you be able now to look somewhere and find the 1,000, or you'll actually tell him the same thing?
We'll stick to our guns. You know, as I've said, I mean, we've thought this through very carefully. We think that the offer we've made, which is well above inflation and takes into account the current inflationary pressures employees are facing, is fair. But it also takes into account or considers the sustainability of the operations and the impact on other stakeholders, which is very important. And those other stakeholders include national government, because the mining industry has really carried this economy out of COVID and is going to be essential to us growing this economy and creating employment in future. So by forcing these kind of above inflation increases onto private companies, in addition to the consistent above inflation electricity costs that we have to absorb, is not advisable. I think that's going to retard growth rather than promote growth. So we will engage with the president and with the minister, obviously, but we are pretty firm in our approach at this stage.
If you had to quantify your losses right now since the strike started, what figure do you stand at?
We are about to put out results this week, so I can't really give you that number. But you know, for us, because remember that the extra 1 billion rand, the difference between our offer and the AMCU and NUM demand is essentially about 1 billion rand in year 3. And that continues. That will be fixed in our cost base forever. Now, our gold operations have got about a 13-year operating life anyway. So we're talking about 13 billion rand of additional cost that will impact on the life of the operations. This strike will have a relatively lower impact than that. So that's how we consider it.
All right. We'll probably keep in touch with you after those conversations with the president as well as the minister. Thank you very much for your time. That was SibanyeStillwater spokesperson James Wellsted.